What is up, guys, and welcome back to another Grimlock video. Today we're going over Elemental Shaman in PvP. This is for solo shuffle, arena, some battleground type stuff maybe, but mostly arena. And we'll be going over builds, talents, stat priority, macros, burst rotation, pretty much anything you can think of about Elemental Shaman. It's going to be mentioned in this guide, and I hope you guys enjoy the video. Without further ado, let's get into it. Alrighty, so starting with the Shaman side of the talent trees here, this is basically my entire build. I will be linking this build in the description below, by the way, so just check there if you wanted to copy and paste it. But starting things off, we'd go Chain Heal. This is just a branch to Earth Shield. Sadly, this is the only way to get Earth Shield, but it's super crucial, so that's that. We get Lava Burst for free. Astral Shift is our shield wall, 40% less damage for 12 seconds on a minute and a half cooldown. Can't complain about that. Chain Lightning, we never use in PvP. Wind Shear is our kick. It's just as simple as a rogue kick. It's only a 2-second lockout though since 10.1, which is kind of rough, so you really have to make sure you're kicking important things. I can explain that later in the PvP talents about how kick can make you pretty much immortal versus certain casters. We do take Plains Traveler. This is a 30-second cooldown reduction on our Astral Shift. Instead of 2 minutes, it's a minute and a half. Pretty important. Astral Bulwark isn't bad either, though, versus high burst comps that revolve around 2-minute cooldowns. So classes like possibly Devoker Frost DK, if you ever fought against that, all their cooldowns rotate on a minute. So having a cooldown on a minute and a half isn't actually that important, whereas having it on a 2-minute cooldown actually rotates better in their chain of how they operate. Now, it's iffy though. Still having a 30-second reduction on that is pretty crucial. We move on though. Thunderous Paws is really good. Spirit Wolf isn't bad, but Thunderous Paws is just so good from kiting away from melee and also getting behind pillars like as soon as possible versus classes like Destrolock where their Conflagrate snares you, and other classes like that. Basically anything like even Elemental Shaman. You know, we Frost Shock, so you can remove the Frost Shock with Thunderous Paws. Pretty good. Like I said, we take Frost Shock. Frost Shock is a need take because we go the Ice Fury build, and if you don't have Frost Shock, you're missing out on this entire portion. It's kind of funny that they allow you to do that. I feel like Frost Shock should just be passive for Elemental Shaman, but who knows. We do take Earth Shield, go Fire and Ice. We take Earth Elemental, and Earth Elemental is super crucial because it procs our Primordial Bond, which is just basically having 5% damage reduction for a minute, as well as 15% increased maximum health. Super nice, makes you super tanky. I do suggest using Earth Elemental after your first Fire Elemental, so you'll Fire Elemental in the opener, get your your Flame Shocks out there, start doing pretty big damage, and then as that starts to dwindle down, cast out your Earth Elemental, sit on the Earth Elemental, and build up your Fire Elemental again, because we're running the Skybreaker's Fire Demise as well as Surge of Power, so your Fire Elemental comes back way faster. Most of the time, by the time your Earth Elemental dies, or is ending, because it lasts a minute, you'll almost have your Fire Elemental back because it will have been a minute and a half since your first Fire Elemental, which is kind of nice. So for 2 minutes straight, you'll be having this 5% damage reduction. Very nice. Move on to Brimming with Life. I do take Brimming with Life. Some people don't. I feel like the text throws people off. The fact that it's like Reincarnation is off cooldown when you're at full health. Reincarnation cooldown, like a lot of like flavor text there, because Reincarnation doesn't matter at all for us in PvP. But your max health increased by 8%, which is super huge. So basically, this is just a flat 8% health increase, revolving around, there's no dispel or anything like that, which is pretty crazy. It's almost like 2 fort buffs on you for free, passive. So it's very good. I feel like if they change the text to just say your maximum health is increased by 8% or your stamina is increased by 8%, people would take this talent more than they actually do. Take Elemental Orbit. This allows you to put a Earth Shield and a Lightning Shield on yourself at the same time, which works with Unleash Shield very well. I'll explain that later. And you can also Earth Shield a teammate, which is very good because Earth Shield heals for a bunch right now. Healing Stream, also very good. Heals for a bunch as well. You basically, if you press Earth Shield and Healing Stream, you're going to be healing for around like 30k every single like 2 seconds as long as somebody's hitting you. Maybe even 40k. It's pretty good. Tremor Totem, kind of like a must take right now because there's so many warlocks, so many warriors, and preservation evokers sleep constantly. Anything like that, you're going to want to take Tremor Totem just so you can instantly remove. Oh, also like, priests, obviously. AoE fear, you can Tremor. Purge, Some people take Greater Purge. It depends on what comp you're fighting against. Both are really good and have their situations. Obviously, Greater Purge is just a cooldown on your Purge. It costs a lot more mana, but it removes 2 beneficial magic effects in a single global, which is very nice for getting off things like Blessing of Protection and Alter Time, stuff like that. Greater Purge can work wonders. Also, same thing with Purge, though, but you're just going to be spending more time pressing Purge as a global. We do take Swirling Currents. This makes our healing stream actually heal for a logical number. If you don't take Swirling Currents, your healing stream heals for like air. It does nothing. But with Swirling Currents, your healing stream heals for quite a bit. Cleanse Spirit, super, super good versus other Shamans and Warlocks. Warlocks have a curse right now that makes them, like if they amplify it, it makes people not crit at all. You can remove that instantly, and they can't reapply it for 40 seconds, I think, right now, or 45 seconds. It's a pretty long cooldown. So every single time they have that up, you can cleanse it. You can also cleanse off Hex. Hex is a curse. So if you Hex a DPS target and the person isn't a Resto Druid, a Mage, or a Restoration Shaman, or some form of Shaman, they won't be able to remove the Hex. So you can actually heal for yourself quite a bit with Hex. I do take Earth Grab Totem. Earth Grab's just really good. You're going to take Totemic Projection later on, so you can move around your Earth Grab Totem. So you can Earth Grab one person, or you can, if you miss your Earth Grab, you can replace it and place it onto somebody, which is really, really good. Like I said, we take Hex. Surging Shields, this just makes your Lightning Shield actually do quite a bit of damage, and it generates Maelstrom. So if you're getting trained, you actually generate so much Maelstrom, you'll be able to Earthshock pretty frequently. But I would say you get a free Earthshock about every 10 seconds if they're training you with Surging Shields up. Which is pretty crazy because it makes it so that every single time you get hit, you're getting 10 Maelstrom. You know, you only need 50 Maelstrom for an Earthshock. Pretty crazy. And then also increases the healing done by your Earth Shield, which Earth Shield heals for quite a bit. You see the 20k, and that's out of PvP, so that's pretty insane. We get Nature's Guardian. This is another reason why Brimming with Life is good, too. Just getting more health to make your Nature's Guardian heal you for more. This button is crazy good. This is almost a must-take, 2 ranks. I don't know when you wouldn't take this, but it's very good. Heal for 20% of your health if you drop below 35%. This occurs less than every minute, so 45 seconds. I'll give you an example. Priests in general have a talent in their tree that's a capstone talent called Angelic Bulwark, and it procs at the same health percentage, 35%, but you only get a 15% health absorb, and it can only occur every 90 seconds. So double the cooldown, less health you gain back from it, triggers at the same time. So Shaman's is just infinitely better in my opinion, though an absorb is kind of nice because it cuts away at a lot of things damage. So not too bad. Do take Voodoo Mastery. Enfeeblement actually isn't bad at all. This basically makes it so that when your Hex wears off, it's a Chains of Ice on that person. So when you cast it on like a healer, if they're line of sighting or you knock them away during the Hex, they come out of the Hex and they're super slow to get back to their team, which is very, very crucial, very good. But Voodoo Mastery is very nice for swapping your Hexes from target to target. You can target a DPS, put a Hex on them, they won't be able to get dispelled because it's a curse. Then you can swap it to a healer. The nice part about having Hex on a 15-second cooldown is if you Hex a target like a DPS, you can Hex the other DPS, and then you can Hex the first DPS again, and by doing that, they're never on like an actual CCDR, which is pretty good. We do take Thunderstorm. It's kind of a staple for Elemental Shamans. Anytime you get trained, you want to be able to knock people away. This also reduces their movement speed, which is really good, and it's usable while stunned, which is the main part. 30 seconds matches up with Stormbolt, I'm pretty sure, so if you get Stormbolted, you can Thunderstorm for free. The only thing is if you Thunderstorm in a stun, most of the time the people that you're knocking away are going to be able to get back to you. So a lot of the times, the only reason I would use Thunderstorm while stunned is to interrupt a cast. So for instance, if a Warlock Shadow Furies you and begins to cast a fear near you, you can Thunderstorm them so the fear doesn't land. Or if a Balanced Druid, bashes you, Mighty bashes you, and then goes to start casting a clone, you can time it so that you can Thunderstorm the clone away and it won't land on you. So just keep that in mind. I do take Gust of Wind. Gust of Wind is pretty good, and considering I take Thunderous Paws, I don't really need Spirit Walk. The only time I would take Spirit Walk is really versus like a Boomkin, and even then it's kind of rare because you can actually Spirit Walk out of Root Beam, but most of the time Root Beam is going to be on your healer anyways, so it doesn't matter too much because you can't put Spirit Walk on another player. It just applies to yourself. So yeah, as long as I'm taking Thunderous Paws, I'm going to be taking Gust of Wind. Take Ancestral Guidance. This is a super, super good cooldown for Elemental Shamans. It allows you to heal for a bunch. We take Totemic Projection. Totemic Surge just makes all of our, every button we press super low cooldown. You're talking 34-second cooldown. Sky Furies, which is burst. Our healing streams a 24-second cooldown. It does make our grounding totem a 24-second cooldown, which lines up really well with Mage's counter spell, so you can actually block a lot of counter spells with that. But yeah, super good. We do take Lightning Lasso, crazy good ability. Lightning Lasso you can actually apply to a target and line of sight the target as you're applying it, and it'll stun them through the wall, which is really good for if you're trying to avoid getting kicked or something like that, or you're just trying to peel yourself. Very good. So no, you can actually Lightning Lasso and walk through a wall, and walk around a wall, and it will still apply. It's not going to break just on line of sight. So keep that in mind when you Lightning Lasso the next time. But that is our Shaman side of the tree, and we'll be moving over to the Elemental side in a second. So looking at the Elemental side of the tree, we obviously take Earth Shocks, needed. We do take Earthquake, Elemental Fury, and Fire Elemental. Storm Elemental is kind of garbage, but I'm actually kind of thinking about going this and trying a Lightning Bolt build, but that's for another day. For right now, we're just going to be going over the main build, which is Fire Elemental, super strong. This makes your Flame Shock do a ridiculous amount more damage because it ticks faster, and it makes them last way longer, which is super, super good, especially seeing we go a full haste build, which I'll explain later on as well. I don't take Inundate anymore. I take Primordial Fury. I do take Primordial Bond. Like I said, you'll have Fire Elemental up. If you don't have Fire Elemental up, you'll have Earth Elemental up, and then you'll have another Fire Elemental up. So realistically, you're going to be having this up for majority of the game. It's just really just a 5% damage reduction, which is very good. Do take Flow of Power. This increases the Maelstrom you generate, which is very good because you're going to be spamming Lava Bursts constantly. We do take Lava Surge, just makes our Lava Burst get an Instacast proc, super strong. Almost necessity, I would say. This is a must pick, 90% of the time. The only time this wouldn't really be a pick, and even then, you'd probably still take it for Volcanic Surge. But I've been playing around with Volcanic Surge. But either way, yeah, we take Lava Surge. Ice Fury does a lot of damage. It's kind of necessity right now. Generates a lot of Maelstrom. It's something to cast when you are kicked on anything else. You could be casting a Lava Burst, get kicked on it, cast an Ice Fury. You can cast a Healing Surge, get kicked on it, cast Ice Fury. If you cast Ice Fury, get kicked on that, you cast Lava Burst, get kicked on that, you can Lightning Lasso for free. There's a lot of elements going on here, which makes your class very strong in this meta right now, because you can get CS'd or locked out really easily if you're not paying attention and you're not good at faking kicks. Luckily, we are good at faking kicks here at the Grimlock channel, so we don't get kicked too often. Swelling Maelstrom just increases our Maelstrom pool by a bunch, 50% basically. So you go up to 150 Maelstrom. You can actually stack a lot of Maelstrom, and during your burst windows, you can just Earth Shock spam, Earth Shock into Lava Burst, Earth Shock into Lava Burst. It's pretty gross. Do that again a bunch of times. So Echo the Elements, obviously Lava Burst gets two charges. Call of Fire, this just increases your Lava Burst and Flame Shock damage, really. The Fire Elemental damage is actually kind of nice too, because their Fire Elemental actually hits quite hard. So Call of Fire, very good, super important. Flux Melting, this makes it so that every single time we cast a Frost Shock, not just the Ice Fury Frost Shocks, just anytime you cast a Frost Shock, you get Flux Melting. So this makes your Lava Burst do more damage, 20% more, very, very big damage increase, honestly. You'll see I go from hitting for 30k with a Flux Melting proc to 25k, so it's quite big difference in damage. Now obviously these numbers aren't scaled very well because I didn't Flame Shock the target, but you get the point. 20% damage increase every single time you Frost Shock. So we take Surge of Power here. This is so every single time you cast Earth Shock, your next Flame Shock will apply to 2 targets. That's super important versus people that spam Dispel you, because if you Earth Shock, Flame Shock, 2 melee that are on you, they can only Dispel 1 unless if they're a Priest that has Mass Dispel or a Mistweaver that has Renewal or Restoral. So very, very important to remember that you can multi-dot with 1 button if you Earth Shock, Flame Shock. Also, you can Earth Shock into a Lava Burst. That'll reduce the cooldown of your Fire Elemental by 6 seconds, which is quite a big drastic decrease, especially when you have Skybreaker's Fire Demise, which makes your Flame Shock constantly be reducing the cooldown as well. You get your Fire Elementals up in not even a minute, so you have them up pretty frequently, which is nice, very nice. Also, You can Earth Shock into Frost Shock, and that roots people for 6 seconds, which is crazy, crazy strong when you don't have your Earth Grab up. Or even if you want to Earth Grab somebody and then Frost Shock somebody else, or you can Frost Shock to get a Hex off so that they can't kick it. Super good versus Rogues, really good versus Warriors, Demon Hunters. It's a good versus a plethora of classes, just being able to Earth Shock into Frost Shock. Flames of the Cauldron. This just reduces the cooldown of Flame Shock and makes it tick faster. Super important, actually, because Flame Shock has a cooldown, and you need Flame Shock up like all the time. Pretty much as possible, you need Flame Shock up. If you don't have Flame Shock on your target, you're not doing a good job as Elemental Shaman, or they're just doing a way too good of a job of dispelling it. But you need to keep Flame Shock up 100% of the time. Eye of the Storm reduces the Maelstrom cost of Earth Shock and Earthquake by 10. That makes it a 50 Maelstrom cast instead of a 60 Maelstrom cast, which is super good when we were playing around with a pool of 150. This means we can cast 3 of them back to back if we wanted. Now, the chance of you ever just spamming Earth Shock, boom, Earth Shock, Earth Shock, Earth Shock, very rare, because you're probably going to Earth Shock into something and then Earth Shock into something again and then Earth Shock into something again because of Surge of Power. Also, the way the Master of the Elements works, you're going to want a Lava Burst in between your Earth Shocks, because every single time you Lava Burst, it increases the damage or the healing of your next spell. So you're going to Lava Burst into an Earth Shock, Lava Burst into a Healing Surge, Lava Burst into an Earth Shock, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. Or Lava Burst into a Frost Shock. So stuff like that. We do take improved Flame Tongue Weapon. This basically just increases our Flame Shock and Lava Burst damage by 5%. Seeing nothing else we do is considered fire damage. I don't think this boosts the damage of Fire Elemental, but somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure this just increases the damage of Flame Shock and Lava Burst. It also might increase the damage. It does increase the damage of Elemental Blast if you go Elemental Blast. So if you do play an Elemental Blast build, it is kind of nice to get this, because it's just an extra 5% extra damage on top of hitting for like a raw, pretty crazy amount of damage. We do take Primordial Wave. This is super crucial. This is our main burst ability. We get this up a lot because we play Rolling Magma, and you want to be able to just spam out as much Primordial Waves when you get the chance, when you set up the damage. You will want to make sure, if you Primordial Wave, you're going to Primordial Wave and you're going to Flame Shock first, because if you don't Flame Shock first, you won't be doing the 20% extra damage. But that is super crucial. You can see just in that one alone, I hit for a ridiculous amount of damage. 250k damage on the PvP training dummy just from one single Lava Burst. Like, pretty ridiculous damage, you know, if you think about it. It's just because of the amount of mastery procs we're getting, on top of the fact that Primordial Wave duplicates your Lava Burst for 80% of its damage against Flame Shock targets. So the more Flame Shocks you have out, the more Lava Burst you're going to shoot out, and the more Lava Burst you shoot out, the more chance you have of this Ascendance proccing, which shoots out even more Lava Bursts. So if I have Flame Shock on this target, this target, this target, this target, and my main target, and then I Primordial Wave and I Lava Burst, there's a 7% chance times every single target that I hit with the Lava Burst that I'm going to get the Ascendance proc on top of the Mastery proc. So it's a very high chance that I'm going to get my Ascendance proc if I have it on, say, 5 targets, which is pretty rare to happen in Arena, but it could happen. So, it is possible. So not something to shy away from. Deeply Rooted Elements is infinitely better than Ascendance, though, for Elemental Shaman. Because you're going to be casting Lava Burst so frequently, and you really don't need it to be as controlled. Whereas, like with Enhancement Shaman, you're most likely going to take the normal Ascendance, because you like to be able to control when you get your proc, basically. We do take Primal Elementalist. This makes our Fire Elemental ridiculously strong. This also makes our Earth Elemental get a stun, which is kind of nice. But our Fire Elemental gets Meteor, which is like a pretty big burst ability. And then also it does like 40k ticks. This does the same amount of damage. Like, I'd say Primal Fire Elemental can do pretty close damage to, like, I would say half of a Demonic Tyrant. But you have it up way more than a Demonic Tyrant. So it's very good. Actually, it's probably a little more than half of Demonic Tyrant, but you have it up all the time. So, like, it's pretty ridiculous. We do take Rolling Magma. Like I said, this just basically makes it so that every single time you cast a Lava Burst, you're reducing the cooldown of your Primordial Wave. I believe the Lava Bursts that come out from Primordial Wave actually reduce its cooldown as well. Let's see here. So I went down like, I don't know, probably about, what would you guys say, like 8 seconds on that one cast? It goes off of the overloads, but I'm not sure if it goes off of the primordial wave overload, like the lava bursts that come out of the primordial wave. I have a feeling those don't count as lava burst overloads. I think they just count as their own thing. But it does count the lava burst that goes out like when you hit your main target, and then the overloads that hit that as well. So we'll see. Let's see here. Again, so 45 seconds. I have it on 3 targets right now. Goes down to like 30 seconds. Yeah, it's about a 10-second reduction if I have it on 3 targets. So it's pretty good. You get a lot of primordial waves with this talent, which is super good because primordial wave, like I said again, is our main burst ability. Magma chamber. This is just every single time your flame shock deals damage, you gain stacking damage for your earth shock and earthquake, which makes it do a total of an extra 30%, which is kind of gross. You can hit really hard. I mean, that was a 76k non-crit, and I didn't do anything except for have that proc up. So 76k non-crit is pretty no joke. You can probably hit for around almost, I'd say if you crit and you have modifiers up, like everything up, you can probably hit for around 160k at least with a crit, maybe even more. With Magma Chamber, so that's pretty good. I do take 1 rank of Searing Flames. This just makes it so that my Flame Shock has a 100% chance to generate a Maelstrom. I don't really need to take the 2nd rank here, and there's really no other talent that I would rather take. So, yeah, I take Searing Flames. Just generates Maelstrom, which is nice. You can see I have a Flame Shock up every second or so. I just get an extra Maelstrom. Now, this is every single time I put a Flame Shock up, so now every second I'm going to gain 2 Maelstrom. And then if I put it on another one every second, I'm going to gain 3 Maelstrom. So it's like you get Maelstrom really fast if you start spreading Flame Shocks around with this. And this is like the bread and butter. We take Splintered Elements now. We used to take Primordial Surge, but it's kind of nerfed a lot. I have been playing with a Primordial Surge build with Volcanic Surge and just like stacking as much multipliers for Lava Burst and getting that to hit as hard as possible, which is really fun. But Splintered Elements is definitely the meta right now. Just increases your haste per each Lava Burst generated. So if I have it on 3 targets, I'm going to gain 30% haste, which is really good. So you can see here in PvP combat, I'm just sitting at 27% haste. If I put it on 3 targets here and I send out a Lava Burst right now, you can see I go up to 65% haste just from that Splintered Elements proc, which also causes our Lava Burst to like constantly come out faster because my Flame Shocks are ticking more. I'll get more procs. So very, very good. Just because of that one proc, the haste boost from it alone makes our Flame Shocks tick so fast that we constantly are getting Lava Surges. And by getting Lava Surges, we get more Primordial Waves, and then it just kind of chains and chains and chains. The goal is to just get as many Primordial Waves out as possible, which lead to a ridiculous amount of damage. Now, I will say, I do highly suggest before Primordial Waving, because we take Splintered Elements and not Primordial Surge, I do highly suggest holding on to a Lava Surge proc. So say you're, sitting here doing PvE damage and you're like, oh, I really need to burst. I would wait for this proc to come out. Don't send the proc and just like preset up, you can Frost Shock, Sky Fury, and then you can Primordial Wave, and then you send out your proc and you do big damn there, because that's probably the best way to go about that, because if you don't have a proc and you Primordial Wave, you won't get a proc 100%, and it's going to take a little bit of time to get that proc, and Ascendance is just insane. Ascendance just makes you do so much damage, which is very satisfying. But, yeah, so, sorry, I got distracted there. Dude, ADHD brain is real. Alright, but either way, you get the point. Splinter Elements is really good. This also makes it so that you can cast heals faster. It also makes your healing stream tick faster. Makes your Hex cast faster. It just does a million things for you. That's very good. And then we take Skybreaker's Fiery Demise. This makes your Flame Shock damage, crits, reduce the cooldown of Fire Elemental, and it makes your Flame Shock have a 50% increased critical strike chance. And that alone, the 50% increased critical strike chance, is actually very good, because that just makes your dots like a very high chance of your dots just critting way more frequently, which is super, super good. But yeah, so Skybreaker's Fire Demise, and that is our elemental side of the tree. I'll be going over the PvP talents really quick. I do take Burrow. Burrow can be replaceable. Burrow's really good though. Versus certain comps, you're gonna want to take season wins because there's so many casters right now. But like if you're playing against, say, a Destro Lock, and you take season wins, this makes it so that interrupting an enemy with wind shear decreases your damage taken from that school by 15%, right? So now when you kick a Chaos Bolt, right, for 18 seconds. So when you kick a Chaos Bolt, and now you're taking 15% less damage from all their spells because it's chaos damage, and chaos damage controls all of their spells, right? And then you kick a Chaos Bolt again when it comes off cooldown. Now you're taking 30% less damage, and then 45% less damage. So for 18 seconds. So you're basically going to be taking half of the damage versus Destro Locks if you're kicking Chaos Bolts, which is really, really gross. Really strong. This is super good versus a lot of classes though. Like even versus other elemental shamans, you can kick Lava Burst if they don't have a proc, and you'll be taking, you know, basically 50% less damage to fire spells. Note that if you kick a fire spell from like a elemental shaman, like a Lava Burst, and a Destro Lock immolates you, that immolate is also going to do less damage because it's just saying that it decreases the damage you take from that spell school. So if you kick a fire spell, you'll take 15% less fire damage. So if you kick a chaos spell, you'll take 15% less fire, chaos, and shadow damage. If you kick shadow, you'll take 15% less shadow damage. It doesn't matter what class, what spell. It's not like it's only reducing that spell's damage. It reduces all the damage revolving around that spell school, which is super, super, super strong versus casters right now. Crazy good. Highly suggest looking into getting season wins if you struggle with dying. But either way, Burrow is also very good. It's very good versus melee specifically. But yeah, I swap between the two. Season wins and Burrow. Crazy strong talents. Grounding, I take 90% of the time, 100% of the time versus casters. Versus melee, I take Static Field Totem sometimes. Now, people have been getting a lot better about playing around Static Field Totem and just killing it instantly, which is really annoying. So realistically, you can probably take like either Traveling Storms maybe, just to knock further, or Unleash Shield realistically. It's probably your more safe bet, which is just an extra knockback. You can Unleash. Because you have Earth Shield and Lightning Shield, you knock back the target and then root them for 2 seconds, which is really good versus melee in general because it's an extra knockback. Say a warrior charges you, you can knock them back with Unleash and then root them. Then they charge you again, you can Thunderstorm them, and then they Heroic Leap on you, and then you can root them with Earth Grab, and then you're free finally from the warrior's destruction. At least for a little bit until they get charged back up, and then you're kind of like, man, I actually have nothing left to do, so I'm just here taking damage. But either way, we almost take Sky Fury 100% of the time. Sky Fury is just a 20% damage increase to critical effects. Now, the nice part about this is we're always doing crits. Like, I would say 95% of the time we're doing crits because you're going to have Flame Shock up, and that makes your Lava Burst always crit. So it's super good. Yeah, so that's super good. Why is it doing that? Okay. Yeah, so Sky Fury is just a 20% damage increase for our burst. Grounding is like an Aura Mastery. Also can save your teammate from dying. Super good. Season Wins is really good. But yeah, the other talents here aren't that great. Like Counter-Strike Totem dies in 2 seconds. It's a 40-second cooldown, which is a long cooldown. And it's nice that people keep it up, but most people will just kill it instantly if they have a Brain Cell. Traveling Storms is okay because you can cast Thunderstorm on allies. This is really good on maps like Blade's Edge, which is the bridge map, or Dalaran Sewers, stuff with like knockoff points, or Mungambala or something like that. I can't say that name ever, but yeah, this is really good on that because you can just knock enemies that aren't even training you. If they're training somebody else, super good. It also makes them knock further, which is nice. So yeah, other stuff to think about. I have been playing around with Volcanic Surge. I won't talk about it much in this video, but I don't think it's meta. I do think it's very good though. So you can take like Volcanic Surge and Primordial Surge, and you can take Windspeaker's Lava Resurgence, and you can stack up all this Lava Burst percentage gain, and your Lava Burst can hit for like at least 120k. And if you're doing Lava Burst for that much, and your Mastery procs, and you have a Primordial Wave up, you can be doing like, you know, in one global, your Lava Burst can hit, if you get a cast off, for like easily, I would say close to like 260k, maybe even more, which is like 50% of someone's health right now. So it's kind of nice. It's a nice option, but to be more consistent, having the instant cast Lava Burst procs is a little bit better. Definitely a little bit better, especially in threes when there's so many kicks going out in the game. The nice part is we do have precog, And if you get precog while you have Volcanic Surge, it's very good because you're able to actually free cast off those lava bursts that would normally be really hard for you to get off. So it's something else to think about. But yeah, play around with it. I definitely suggest taking the talents though that I mentioned. I think this is pretty much relatively the meta build right now. There's a lot of things you can do with this build. You can work around different angles. Like if you don't like Gust of Wind, for instance, you can put it in Spirit Walker's Grace, or you can put it in Stone Skin Totem, so you take 10% less damage versus melee, or you can take Totemic Recall, so you can get 2 grounding totems back to back, stuff like that, or 2 static field totems even back to back, which is also really good. So there's stuff like that you can take and just play around with the build, but realistically, this is what I play, and this is what I definitely suggest you guys play. Alrighty, so now we're going to move into the section of the guide where I talk about how to do damage as Elemental Shaman, and I'm just going to display that on a PvP training dummy. Later in this video, I might include some gameplay clips. I haven't been playing a lot of Elemental Shaman, so it's going to be a little hard for me to include a lot of clips, but you get the point. Just from this alone, I'm going to just be showing you kind of what to expect and what to do as Elemental Shaman. So when you get into the arena, the first global most of the time you're going to be pressing is Flame Shock. The only time that you're not going to be pressing Flame Shock first global is obviously versus stealth classes like Rogue Mage or stuff like that, or Hunters. In that case, you're going to be wanting to try to get like a Rogue out of stealth with Earth Grab Totem, so because you can. So if you place an Earth Grab Totem on a stealth target, it will root them in stealth and pull them out of stealth, which is very crucial. So something to think about there. But most of the time, you're going to want to be putting a Flame Shock on your main target and just spamming out as many Lava Burst procs as possible. You're going to want to immediately try to get Flame Shock up on 2 targets, which is really crucial, and you're going to want to get as much Maelstrom as possible before bursting. Now once you have all those above, you're just casting out procs, you get Magma Chamber stacked up, you're not going to Earth Shock much. The only time you're going to be Earth Shocking in the opener really is if you need to Earth Shock Frost Shock to like root people, or you need to Earth Shock to spread your Flame Shock. So you can see I put it on here and it hits on a guy in the background there. I can cast out another one, put it here. Now I have it on 5 targets that quick. It's pretty crazy. So something to think about there for sure is just the only time you really are going to be using Earth Shock in the opener is to get out utility like Frost Shock roots or Earth Shock to get Flame Shock spread. Now you can see just by spreading my Flame Shock and keeping my Flame Shocks active on multiple targets, I get a lot of Lava Burst procs, and I'm also doing like 50 to 60k DPS just passively, just PvEing basically. I'm not even doing a ridiculous amount of damage, which is very good. It's super nice. If I notice my Frost Shocks are like coming close to falling off, I can Earth Shock, Frost Shock, or I can just Frost Shock, or Fire Shock, sorry. I don't know why. Flame Shock. Jesus Christ, dude. Either way. So yeah, we're going to be Flame Shocking as frequently as possible, keeping it up on targets, and this is basically all we have to do damage in the mid game or the early game as we're just fighting. When we do want to pop burst, we are going to pop Fire Elemental, Sky Fury Totem, and we're going to set up our damage. So remember guys, we have Flux Melting, so we're going to want a Flame Shock before we do any real damage. If you don't Flame Shock first, your damage is significantly lessened. So to show how I set up damage personally is I'm going to Flame Shock my main target. I'm going to Frost Shock. Now that puts Flux Melting up on myself. I'm going to Fire Elemental, Sky Fury, and then I'm going to Primordial Wave a target. And as I do that, I can press my Lava Burst and Meteor at the same time. And you can see right there, I'm going to do a significant amount of damage. I mean, it's kind of hard to break it down here, but you can see that the... Oh, it doesn't show the Meteor in the breakdown anymore. But you can see the Meteor hit for 115k just from the Fire Elemental alone, on top of the Lava Burst damage there. I probably did close to, I don't know, maybe like around 300 to 350k damage in that single global, basically. That's all we're going to be doing, is just trying to get our Primordial Waves up as much as possible, keep our Flame Shocks active, Frost Shock, Primordial Wave, Sky Fury when we have it, and just keep bursting into people like that over and over again. You're going to want to lead with your Lava Burst into Earth Shocks because, again, we take Master of the Elements, so every time we cast a Lava Burst, it increases the damage of our physical, nature, and lightning abilities. So, oh, and frost abilities, sorry. And frost abilities. So, you're going to want to be, like I said, leading into Lava Burst, into Earth Shock, Lava Burst, into Earth Shock. And that's basically how you're going to be doing a majority of your damage as Elemental Shaman. Now, in the mid game, or say you get kicked on something like your Lava Burst cast, or you get kicked in general, you're going to want to be casting Ice Fury. Ice Fury is a really good breakaway from just, having to spam out any form of damage that, like, you have to set up for, because it's all instant cast. So you're just going to be Lava Bursting into Frost Shocks when you have your Ice Fury active. If you don't have Ice Fury active, you don't have to Lava Burst into Frost Shock. You can Lava Burst into Earth Shock. Now note the Frost Shocks from... Jesus, this is hard to explain. The Frost Shocks from Ice Fury generate Maelstrom. So if you Ice Fury and then Frost Shock, Frost Shock, Frost Shock, you will gain a bunch of Maelstrom. So like I'm going to burn through my Maelstrom right now. I'm down to 15. If I Ice Fury once, I go up to 40. Then I Frost Shock. That's Frost Shock, Frost Shock, and Frost Shock. So I went from 15 to 96, which means in a single Ice Fury alone, with no Flame Shocks up, I went from I gained 80 Maelstrom, which is pretty crazy for 5 globals worth of damage that is uninterruptible, basically. Because if you interrupt Ice Fury, you're going to be doing a ridiculous amount of damage elsewhere as Elemental Shaman, so it's not as crucial. So like, don't be sad that somebody interrupts you on Ice Fury. It's actually a good thing for you to get interrupted on Ice Fury. It means you're doing a good job. So again, if we want to set up damage, we can Ice Fury first. We can Frost Shock. We Fire Elemental. Set down our Sky Fury. Primordial Wave. Lava Burst into a Meteor. Super big burst right there. Boom. Big damn. Constantly. And you can just rotate through Lava Burst, Earth Shock into Frost Shock, Lava Burst, Frost Shock, Lava Burst, Earth Shock. You know what I mean? You can rotate through those relatively quick and constantly be doing damage like that. Because your Frost Shocks actually hit for quite a bit. You can see I hit for a 90k Frost Shock because I Earth Shocked into Frost Shock. But the only time you're going to be Frost Shocking for damage is Ice Fury, or if you need to get Flux Melting up, guys. You don't Frost Shock for like actual damage. You're not going to be spamming it like mid-go like this over and over again. You're going to want to be mainly doing Lava Burst into Earth Shock, Lava Burst into Earth Shock. Alrighty. Another thing to note is I do have 2 sets as Elemental Shaman. The 2 set for Elemental Shaman is you gain Stormkeeper, but in PvP it's every 100 seconds, not every 50 seconds. So you only gain it once every like minute and 40 seconds, which is terrible because the cooldown is only a minute anyways on normal. So you gain it, but you gain it passively. So it's basically free damage. Whenever you do get the proc though, you're gonna want to Earth Shock first because you get the 2 additional elemental overloads from it, and that is super, super crucial to it doing any real damage. I hope I can explain that a little better, but when you gain Stormkeeper, you don't want to just send it raw. You want to Earth Shock. So you want to Lava Burst, Earth Shock into a Lightning Bolt. The Lava Burst makes the Earth Shock hit harder. The Earth Shock makes the Lightning Bolt hit harder. You can't Lava Burst, Earth Shock, and then Lava Burst to Lightning Bolt to make the Lightning Bolt hit harder with the Earth Shock or the Lava Burst, because the Lightning Bolt, the Surge of Power proc gets eaten by the Lava Burst. So you have to use the Earth Shock into Lightning Bolt, even though you want to get the Master of Elements. It's just not possible, ladies and gentlemen. It's not possible. You have to get Surge of Power. Surge of Power is better for Lightning Bolt than Master of the Elements is. So yeah, that's basically it. I hope you understand. If you don't understand anything I just said damage rotation wise, I just suggest rewatching because I know it was really hard to like understand what I was trying to say. But right here, for instance, we Lava Burst, Earth Shock into a Lightning Bolt. 1, 2, 3. You can see 4 casts off from that one Lightning Bolt. The Lightning Bolt alone, 1 cast did 125k, and none of them crit, and I had no burst cooldowns up. So it's kind of nice for just free damage from a set bonus. You know what I mean? Even though it's every like almost 2 minutes. But hey, free damage is free damage. I'll take it. As Elemental, you're not going to want the 4 set because 1, you're only going to get it up after Stormkeeper, which is every 2 minutes, which is terrible. And 2, it only increases the critical strike damage of Chain Lightning, Lava Beam, and Earthquake, which is garbage because you're not going to be casting any of those. And it only increases the amount of Maelstrom you're generating from your other stuff by like 25%. What is it? Yeah, 25%, which is like garbage. It's absolute trash considering you're going to be losing a lot of your main stats. Now, I got these these gloves for free, but these gloves are far from best in slot for Shaman, for Elemental specifically. Why can't I find the thing? This. Okay. If we're going to look over at the loot table and see what we have for set bonus, I'm going to tell you right now, this helmet is definitely best in slot. It's haste verse, which is super, super good for elemental shaman in general, because that's what we're stacking is haste. Let's see. Realistically, you're going to go the haste verse and probably the legs, which is I got the legs. The reason I got the legs is because I was going enhancement at the beginning of this experience, like the beginning of this patch. But you know, haste mastery is just super good. It's a lot of haste too. But you really want to get this helmet as well. Those are going to be the main two pieces you're going to get. You're going to want to get the normal gloves from the vendor here and just stack up as much haste as possible. So if you look at the conquest vendor here, these are the gloves right here. Verse haste. These are way better for your build than what I have right now. But 2-piece is good. Getting Stormkeeper up every 2 minutes is still really good. It's a nice free damage, so you might as well take advantage of it. You are going to want to take Obsidian Gladiator Talons instead of any Gavel or anything like that, or Scepter. You get the haste verse, and it's still int stand, which is really good. So yeah, definitely want to take the Talons. If once you get your weapon, if you haven't already gotten your weapon. I'm sorry, this guide is coming out a little late, but yeah. So I don't have a lot of gear on my elemental shaman, but you can see I'm doing pretty consistent damage, pretty ridiculous damage. One thing you do definitely want to get is this chest piece with precog, and then you're gonna want to get the Infurious Boots of Reprieve. I haven't upgraded these from last season, but I do have a work order out for it right now to get 450 boots. It's literally being made for me right now, but yeah, you want to get 450 item level Infurious Boots of Reprieve, which is haste verse, and then every single time you apply a loss of control or you kick, you gain primary stat every 30 seconds, which is really good considering we have kick up so frequently. We can control when we get that proc pretty frequently, which is kind of gross. So yeah, I definitely suggest getting Infurious Boots of Reprieve and Flame Touch Chainmail with the precog. Super good. And then, like I said, you're going to get the legs for the set and the helm for the set, ideally. And then everything else, just haste verse all the way. Haste verse, you're going to want to build... There is a ring that you can get from the crafts thing, like when people make items for you. There's a ring that's just pure haste verse that you're going to want to build. And you can make it a 450 item level, like a conquest ring, just by buying the actual trophy from the conquest vendor here. So you're going to buy this right here, the lesser trophy of conquest. This will allow you to basically get 2 haste verse conquest rings. So you'll get this, let's see, not that. This ring right here, which is haste verse ring, and then you're going to get this and make another haste verse ring. So you have double haste verse rings on your character that are 450 item level. It's very good. It's what I do on my Shadow Priest. It's what you're going to do on Shaman, but haste verse is definitely the meta right now. You get enough passive mastery anyways for it to matter, but realistically you want your flame shocks ticking as much as possible, because the more your flame shocks tick, the more lava surges you're going to get. The more lava surges you're going to get, the more primordial waves you're going to get. And the more primordial waves you're going to get, the more splintered elements procs you're going to get, which makes your haste skyrocket. And again, the more lava bursts you get out, the more ascendance procs you get out, and etc. You're just doing a ridiculous amount of PvE damage. You don't have to focus too much as elemental shaman on doing a lot of crowd control. You're just there to do a ridiculous brute amount of damage. That is your job as elemental shaman. Also, you have a very good amount of utility with thunderstorm. You have ancestral guidance. You have healing stream totem. So you have a lot of things. Grounding and wind shear, super good. Honestly, like I said before, if you take season wins, wind shear and grounding totem alone are going to basically make you immortal versus Destrolox. And if you die to a Destrolock as an elemental shaman, I feel like you're probably playing it a little wrong, or the Destrolock's just really good at setting up its damage with mortal coils and stuns and stuff like that. So yeah, just look out for good Destrolocks, but realistically you shouldn't have a problem versus them. But yeah, just stack haste verse. Your gems are going to be haste verse or just haste. I got the haste enchantments on my rings, so you're just going to get as much haste as possible, do as much damage as possible, and yeah, that's about it for that. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, getting into our macros, we do have a purge macro. This purge macro is basically just /cash purge or /cash greater purge. This basically just allows me to, you know, if I don't think I need it anymore. I think if you swap to Greater Purge, it replaces Purge now finally, so you don't actually have to worry about this macro too much. I do have a stop casting macro for my Thunderstorm. This just means if I'm casting something, I can instantly stop and Thunderstorm immediately, which is actually very good versus like Warriors and other high mobility classes like Demon Hunter, Monk, or maybe even Rogue for shadow stepping and stuff like that. I do have a stop casting wind shear macro, same exact thing except for his casters basically. These are basically the same thing, it's just melee and caster. Stop casting earth shock. This means like if I'm casting something and someone drops to say, you know, 20% of their health and I can possibly finish them off with an earth shock, I just cast the earth shock. It is iffy though. I might not use this macro anymore because yeah, I don't use it anymore. The reason being is if I'm casting something like a lava burst actually has a chance to do more damage than the earth shock because of the amount of rebounds it does now. So I don't think this macro is too good. I'm probably just gonna get rid of it. I do have an astral shift macro. This just allows me to use Hellstone as I astral shift. Most of the time I'll be using Hellstone around the time I astral shift, but sometimes it's not too important. You want to be astral shifting at a higher health percentage than a lower health percentage. You could use Burrow at lower health percentages, so realistically astral shift is for that like 65 to 45% range of health, and then Burrow's for that like 15 to 25% range of health if you need those types of cooldowns at that period of time in the game. We do have a focus wind shear macro that just allows us to wind shear a focus target, so it allows me to shear not my main target, like so for instance if I have a healer on focus and I'm attacking their DPS person and they start to cast a cyclone on me, I can instantly shear it without having to click them or target them in any other way, which is just wasted time. I could just instantly focus shear them, which is great. I do have an elemental blast macro. Now this is for any elemental blast build, you're gonna want to get nature swiftness so you can instantly cast elemental blast. Now nature swiftness is off global cooldown, so what you can do is you can like line up damage. So for instance, you can cast like a lava burst, and as you're casting lava burst, as it ends, you can press like this blast macro and it'll immediately cast an elemental blast, which is pretty gross. You can actually end up doing, if you do like a elemental blast type build, you can end up doing quite a bit of damage. But I'll have to test around with those types of builds. For right now, this build again is pretty meta. It's pretty solid right now. I do have a burst macro for my enhancement spec because I cast Bloodlust and Ascendance at the same time. Focus Hex, same thing as the focus Wind Shear, except it's for my Hex. I can focus, cast a crowd control. The nice part about having a focus crowd control ability like this is if you're targeting somebody, they have no clue if you're casting the Hex on them or their teammate, which throws them off a little bit, which is kind of nice. I focus Purge / Greater Purge, same thing as Purge basically, just on your focus. So say for instance the healer lines up a nature swiftness, an NS of some sort, whether it's a druid, tip the scales from an evoker, or a restoration shaman, you can immediately purge that off if you happen to catch them in a global, which is very nice. I do have a meteor macro. This is basically my earthquake, so I can cast earthquake if I need to, but instead of taking up 2 keybinds, or 3 really, I just macro it all into 1. I don't need to cast the earthquake. I just press the button and either a meteor will come out or a pulverize will come out, depending on if I have a fire elemental or an earth elemental. So if I have a fire elemental out, this is how I cast my meteor, just /cast space meteor. Super simple. You can make this macro into anything. I just chose earthquake specifically because it's a button I don't commonly press. So if I want to line it up specifically, so if I want to cast lava bursts and earth shocks and stuff without utilizing the meteor just yet, I have that stored within my my earthquake button. Same thing with pulverize. Pulverize is a stun from your earth elemental, so that's super crucial to hold. And then this macro is just for doom winds basically, for my enhancement spec. But yeah, so nothing too crazy. A lot of focus macros, nothing crazy there. I do target people with macros, and I focus them with macros, so it's just focus / focus arena 1, 2, and 3, and I also have a focus target. And then I have target arena 1, 2, and 3 here. Arena 1, 2, and 3. That just lets me target my arena frames and focus them at the same time. If I'm targeting somebody like in a battleground, I can make them my focus with the focus target macro. The way the focus target macro works is you just type /focus space target. No matter what you're targeting, will allow you to focus them. So it doesn't matter if it's yourself, a teammate, or anything like that, which is actually a very helpful macro in battlegrounds specifically. It lets you set focuses really simply. But most of the time, yeah, this is how I target. And yeah, that's about it for my map. Alrighty guys, that is it for today's video. I know I didn't include any gameplay. I'm super sorry about that. I got really busy with actually playing a whole bunch of Shadow Priest this week. Been really trying to grind out my Shadow Priest. So I have gameplay of that, but that's not going to help you guys. But if you want to see some Shaman gameplay, feel free to watch some of my previous videos. I do have videos from the last patch, and that at least shows you somewhat of what to do with Elemental Shaman gameplay. Obviously, if you enjoyed today's video, please feel free to leave a like, subscribe, and write a comment below. Tell me if you have any questions or anything like that. Feel free to join the Discord today. We do have a decent Discord. We're starting to build it up a little bit. People come and go, but we're getting there, guys. We started from the bottom, and we're slowly getting there. I wouldn't say we're anywhere close to the top, but you know what? I'm having fun while doing it, and I enjoy talking with you guys and helping every single one of you out. If you have any questions, though, about any PvP at all, please feel free to drop it in the comments below. I'd love to talk to you guys. And yeah, I'll see you guys again soon. Peace.